Hello, I'm Allison Ansley. Courageous women walk among us every day, women of every age and background. The Women of Courage series on Rogers Television offers a one-hour glimpse into some of the world's most remarkable examples. Their inspirational messages demonstrate that any one of us can be a hero. Today, a memorable woman with a heart of gold, a will of steel, and a fist of iron. At 83 years young, she has guided and transformed the city of Mississauga to become the 6th largest city in Canada. Her name is Hazel McCallion. Hazel's story begins in a small fishing village, Port Daniel on the Gaspé coast in Quebec. She has a political reputation for being tough, but Hazel comes by the trait honestly. Her mother, Amanda Maud, wasn't anyone's idea of a pushover either. As a young standout hockey player, Hazel's strength and determination were already evident to her teammates and opponents as she blazed past both to score another goal. Hazel has served as Mayor of Mississauga for 25 years, spanning an unprecedented 4 decades. And the way she's going, Hazel's on course to break some new records, leading Mississauga into a 5th decade. Hazel is a remarkable woman who governs with a combination of skill and tenacity. A fireball on the ice and in the political arena, she's here to share the story of her courageous life. Our featured speaker, Mayor Hazel McCallion on Rogers Television.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What a thrill it is for me to introduce the remarkable woman to our stage today. Mayor Hazel McCallion is someone who is admired and respected as the inspirational leader of the city of Mississauga. And I had the opportunity to chat with Mayor McCallion at our 25th anniversary in Mississauga in the summer. And I said to her, do you remember the Hurricane Hazel in 1954? She said, I sure do. I named my dog Hurricane. I thought that was neat. Anyway, when Mayor McCallion first came to the City Hall 25 years ago, there were cows grazing in the parking lot where Square One is now located. The Mississauga Valley to the southeast of City Centre was all forest where partridge hunters would wander searching for game. And look at the city now, over 680,000 strong. A wonderful multicultural community representing the 6th largest city in Canada. And as Mayor McCallion likes to remind her contemporaries, a city that is debt-free, with a sizable surplus in the bank and with 52 Fortune 500 head offices located right here in her Mississauga. One doesn't survive in the volatile game of politics for this long without being really unique. It takes someone who understands how to manage growth successfully, someone who can build a strong team to oversee that growth, someone who can nurture relationships in the community and gain the respect of their constituents. Politicians throughout the country at all levels should, and probably are, taking a page out of the Hazel McCallion book of sound municipal governance. Let's take a brief moment and look at some highlights from the incredible life of our Mayor, Hazel McCallion.
Look back, family reunions, in my opinion, are very important. I want to tell you that my dad's name was Journal. All French Huguenots. Couldn't speak a word of French, but were French Protestants that were, I understand, were kicked out of France for their religion. Sometimes it says they're for stealing sheep, but I don't know which.
Okay, here we go, one more time. Here we go. 1, 2.
I was a Depression kid, of course. I was spoiled by my family, by my sisters and my brothers, because I was a fair distance behind them. And I only had one doll and one toy. And that was a bunny rabbit so I never had very much. I wore secondhand clothes because my dad, during the Depression, he worked, of course, in the fish processing, but during the Depression, it wasn't very good. And then in the wintertime, of course, Mother put away eggs we had been on a farm. We were on a 100-acre farm. Dad put away the potatoes and meaning turnips and carrots, etc. for the winter. And Mother put eggs and salt to keep them fresh. And of course we had pigs and cattle. So we had pasteurized milk we never knew about. we just drank the milk that came from the cows. And Mother would put the milk out in pans, and then she'd skim the cream off the top and made her own butter and her own bread. When I got to Montreal, or Quebec City, St. John's, Quebec, I took a long time to eat bread. It was so terrible compared to my mother's homemade bread. Homemade butter, homemade bread, everything. And of course, as a kid, I picked a lot of raspberries. I used to pick all the raspberries for Mother to make into jam, and then after she had enough, then I could sell them to the neighbors. That's how I made a little money.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in welcoming to the Women of Courage stage, Mayor Hazel McCallion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, this is great to be here, and thank you very much for that introduction. I want you to know I have a pink Cadillac. Can't operate it, but I have it. I've been looking forward. I've been to Mary Kay's presentations, and I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that I had the pleasure of knowing Mary Kay. Wonderful person. I went to many of the events that she came to Toronto and then came to Mississauga for. So thank you, Mary Kay, for your support. They came to Mississauga 25 years ago, so we celebrated last year my 25 years as mayor and Mary Kay's presence in Mississauga for 25 years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that I feel quite honored to be asked to come and speak at this very special event. And I do want to thank most sincerely Ron Duquette, Ron Lennick, and Susan Wood. You know, when this started out and the suggestion came forward, it was hard to believe how successful it would be. And they have done an outstanding job. I think we owe a real applause to Ron Duquette, Ron Lennick, and Susan Wood. Yes, I remember when we established the first Interim Place in Mississauga, and we were able to turn over a house. And then it got to the point where we certainly had outlived that, unfortunately, as everybody has said today. And then the second one was to be established. And I insisted that it be in Malton. I think the members of the board will remember that, because I felt that maybe Malton is sort of off from the center of Mississauga because it's divided by that very large industrial area. And so it would be nice to have one in the north, sort of, and one in the south. And so it was established. And now we have that beautiful new facility in South Mississauga. I was visited just the other day, or last week, in which a ratepayers association that had some $7,000 left over for a number of years in Frank McKechnie's ward. And they turned that over to Interim Place, and we had the pleasure of presenting that on behalf of a person who was very supportive of Interim Place, the late Councillor Frank McKechnie. So yes, it is unfortunate that we have a place, and more than one, in Mississauga. But I can assure you that it is so important. And I hope someday, as I said on the film, and I said on Ted Walsh's show the other morning, I hope that someday we can eliminate it. It's going to be very difficult, because violence today in society is evident in so many ways. Violence in sports, violence in households, and violence generally in the community. And it's a challenge that we certainly face in every community across Canada. Yes, I am proud, and I know my councillors are very proud, and the police are very proud, and the staff of the city is very proud, and I know the citizens are very proud that for 4 years in a row, we are the most crime-free city in Canada. That's quite an accomplishment. Yes, we have crime, but at least it's limited at this point. But as we grow, I know that things will happen that we will not be pleased with. I enjoy work. I really, really enjoy it. It's more of a recreation for me than no, I enjoy work. I enjoy accomplishing things. I like administration. I do enjoy the social aspect of the mayor's job. There's no question about it. But I enjoy the administration. I enjoy working with the staff. I think I've worked with staff all my years, except my first job where I was the only one in the office. I worked with other workers, and I've always been in a management position, working with people. And so I have no, work means it doesn't bother me. My mother used to say, well, work never killed anybody. It's people who loaf that sometimes die early. I think life is just an outstanding opportunity to do so many things. I can't appreciate people saying they have a lot of time on their hands. There is no time available to do all the things that I would like to do. I just can't find the time. I wish there were more days in a week just to get more things done, meet more people, get involved in more functions, and so there's so much to do.
Well, you know, you asked me to do a number of things today about my life as mayor of the city, but maybe I'd like to go back into my earlier days because I've loved every job and every challenge I've undertaken. I remember when I arrived in Montreal, a little kid from the Gaspé Coast, not very knowledgeable about a lot of things because we didn't have TV in those days, etc. We just had the radio. But I do recall that I did listen to the radio. I do recall it's something my mother taught me, and that is when the national anthem or the Queen's anthem was sung, I had to stand up anywhere in the house. Doesn't matter where it was. She was very strict, a very great loyalist, and very proud of her, of the King and Queen of Canada and England. And yes, I got into Montreal and took a business course at Notre Dame Secretarial School. And by the way, Mary Kay would not appreciate the mother who ran the school, because when you came in the morning, as we lined up, she stood there, Mother St. Catherine, and if anybody had lipstick on, they had to go to the bathroom to take it off. So she didn't believe in Mary Kay in those days, I can tell you. Yes, I was a Protestant in a Roman Catholic school, and we were allowed to be separated during prayers, etc. I don't know why, because today that would not be accepted. We would all be together, praying together, as we should be, etc. I left that school and got a job. And I can assure you, I worked for the Redwood Distributors, a gentleman who had an office. I was the only employee in the office. And I can tell you, he taught me a lot of things, because he thought this poor little kid from the Gaspé Coast needed help. And so he was a great teacher. Then I joined Canadian Kellogg, engineers and contractors in the petrochemical field. And we, in 1942, were awarded the contract to build the world's first synthetic rubber plant at Sarnia, Ontario. Because, as you know, during the war, the supply of natural rubber had been cut off. They had forced Goodrich to release the formula. And so my boss said to me, I'd like you to come to Toronto with me to set up an office to build the world's first synthetic rubber plant. So up I came. To Toronto, and of course, having the highest war priority, we could go into any plant at any time and take over production in order to build the plant. And so while I was in Montreal, I have to tell you, I have to go back a bit. I decided I'd try out for hockey. Now, my brother had brought me a pair of skates when I was 5. Took me out on we didn't even have a rink in Port Annual at that time. We couldn't afford it. Remember, I was a Depression kid. And so he took me out on a sheet of ice to teach me how to skate. The first time I put the skates on, I fell and hit my head. He said, "You'll hold it up the next time." That's some of the ways, you know, you're taught to be independent and strong and make decisions. So anyway, I tried out for hockey in Montreal, and by the way, I was accepted. Now, down on the Gaspé Coast, when I played hockey, it was newspapers to protect your legs and just ordinary clothes to play hockey. When I got to Montreal and was accepted in the professional league, they loaded me with equipment. Can you imagine all the equipment? So it slowed me down a bit, I got to tell you, just a bit. Anyway, I was paid $5 a game. I don't know what Gretzky gets today, but that's what I was paid. So I had to leave my hockey life when I came to Toronto because I was too busy. But I can assure you my experience in building the world's first synthetic rubber plant was quite an experience. Worked many, many hours of overtime. My boss taught me something, and which taught me, and I know my counselors have heard me say it, do your homework. And he said to me, he was a Texan. He was a man with engineering degree and a chartered accountant's degree. And I could assure you he was very, very capable. And he said to me, when you come into the office to get money for a budget, for your budget, because I had to handle the budget for the operation, he said, try to estimate or try to think of all the questions I'm going to ask you so you have the answers. Boy, that's a tough one. And he certainly taught me a lot of things in that regard. In other words, be sure, think about the questions you're going to be asked when you're going to make a presentation. Sure, concentrate on the presentation, but also think about the questions you're going to be asked. So he taught me to be prepared. He taught me to do my homework before I approached, and especially when he sent me on trips to New York to deal with those big shots in New York when I took the Canadian budget down to them. And I'll tell you, it wasn't easy, but I came through it. And it was a wonderful experience. And then the company, I was left in charge of the company to close the large contract. And then they said, do you want to go back to Montreal? By this time, I had joined St. Michael All Angels Church on St. Clair Avenue and became active in the Anglican Young People's Association. So I said, no, I like Toronto, I'm going to stay. They said, fine, we'll transfer the head office from Montreal to Toronto. You know, I say, I can't think that religion ever transferred a head office, but it did. And so it was a wonderful experience. And then after 19 years, after building not only the world's first synthetic rubber plant, the pilot project on the Great Canadian Tar Sands that is now Fort McMurray that takes the oil out of the sands. We built that as well. Then after 20 years, 20 years, I decided to retire. Retire, you heard. Yeah, retire. And got involved in politics. Became chairman of the Streetsville Planning Board. And in those days, the planning boards had some authority. Not today. And then I went on to our recommendations from the planning board were being ignored by the council of the town of Streetsville, or the village of Streetsville at the time, because it was all run by men. That had a lot of influence in the community. And so a group of us got together and decided that we should run for council. And so I ran. The first time I ran for council, I was defeated as Deputy Reva Street. You know why? Because the women didn't want a woman entering a man's world. The women worked strenuously against me. I was interfering in politics. A woman, what would she know about being a politician? And I want to just give the reverse of that. that I believe in 1978 I was elected by the women of Mississauga. Just show you the difference. I can give you a number of people whose husbands said, no way am I supporting a woman. A woman can't handle this city, whose wives went out and worked for me. And they're all very famous people in Mississauga, I can tell you. So it just shows the difference. Well, as mayor of Streetsville, I ran for mayor of Streetsville in 1970. I ran the next year and won as Reeve, Deputy Reeve of Streetsville, and then became Reeve, and then ran as mayor. And you know, that was a wonderful experience. I certainly had more control as mayor of Streetsville than I have as mayor of Mississauga. I just want you to know that. I signed the welfare checks, and a few of them I held up because I knew what they were doing with the money they were getting. I remember the day that a gentleman moved out from Toronto to Streetsville and rented a house on Main Street. He had 17 dogs and 11 cats, and he applied for welfare. So when we knew that he had all these animals, I decided not to issue a check to him for money. I said, I'll give you a grocery bill, a grocery chit. And I remember he used to go to Bert Johnson's IGA in Streetsville. And instead of buying food for himself, he was buying dog and cat food. Menu foods. Maggie would never appreciate that. He was buying canned beans and everything to feed these. So then I cut him off completely. Well, he made an appeal to the government, to the province of Ontario, and we were there challenged. So out came this lady to try to find out why the mayor had cut this gentleman off of welfare. So when she came out, I said, I want you to meet at the house that he lives in, not in my office. So we went to the house on Main Street. We sat down, and the house was filthy dirty, but anyway, we sat down at the table. A dog came up and peed against the leg of the table. A cat jumped up on the table. By the way, I was supported. She went back to Toronto and I never heard from her. And he left Streetsville. I went all across Canada, I have to tell you. It was in the Globe and Mail, got on the internet, the press. And as a result, I had letters from all over the country. In fact, a lady from Belleville sent me a check because it said in the mail he hadn't paid the dog licenses for 17 dogs. She sent the town of Streetsville a check to pay for the dog license. Anyway, it was an interesting experience as mayor of the great town of Streetsville. And then, of course, we became a part of the city of Mississauga. But let me tell you about my experience at AYPA, which was a wonderful experience. I was chosen to attend the Second World Conference of Christian Youth in Oslo, Norway, because I had become president of the Anglican Young People's Association of Canada, the first female to become president. They had always chosen a male president. And so I had never been up in an airplane. That was a real experience, and I had to fly to Oslo, Norway. So I was booked on American Airlines. When my brother found out about that, he insisted I had to change to Air Canada. I mean, Trans-Canada at the time, or whatever the airline was called. I flew to Prestwick, Scotland, got off the plane all alone, waiting for a bus to take me to Newcastle. I found I was on the wrong side of the road to get a bus. Got to Newcastle, stayed with a family, an Anglican family, and I'll never forget it, folks, because there's some little things in life that are so important, that remain in your memory. That morning, it was in 1947, and when I went downstairs for breakfast, there they had for me bacon and eggs, their allotment for 1 month. I ate for breakfast. Went by bus to Newcastle, went by boat to Bergen, got into Bergen, then took a train that went through 122 tunnels to get to Oslo, Norway, with the windows open. We were black when we got to Oslo. accommodated in a teaching college that had one bathroom for 48 people. And so I was there for 10 days at this conference, met young people from all over the world, except Germany and Japan, because just after the war, they were not allowed to join. And again, learned something about the world, and it was a wonderful experience. The theme of the conference was, Jesus Christ is Lord. And I'll tell you, it has lasted with me for many, many years, that wonderful experience.
You're listening to Mississauga Mayor Hazel McCallion speaking as a woman of courage. When you love your job, anything is possible. Stay tuned for more of Hazel's story right here on Rogers Television.
It was a typical Saturday evening in the city of Mississauga, November 10th, 1979. Unusually quiet. The kids were nodding off in bed, people were watching the news or a late movie. Then suddenly, night turned to day as a giant fireball shook the city. Thousands of residents ran to their windows. A mushroom cloud of gas was beginning to envelop the center of the city. A 106-car train carrying toxic chlorine gas derailed. The horrific accident initiated the greatest exodus in peacetime, as 200,000 citizens, young, old, hospital-bound, left the city seeking safety and shelter. As in most times of crisis, a leader emerged, Mississauga's newly elected mayor. Hazel McCallion was a no-name politician in late November of 1979, reigning over an abandoned city. Although her first concern was for the safety of the citizens, she also wanted answers, not political double talk. She was fighting for her city's future.
I can assure you the taxpayers of Mississauga are not going to bear the brunt of this incident.
Welcome back. I'm Allison Ansley. We return now to the podium with Mississauga Mayor Hazel McCallion as she continues her speech, When You Love Your Job, Anything is Possible, part of the Women of Courage series exclusively on Rogers Television.
I've joined the World Health in Kobe, Japan, another wonderful experience. And what is so wonderful about the World Health experience that I've had with the Kobe Center is Dr. Kawaguchi is very insistent that we must try to build health prevention into everything we do. And that is why today we have the Mississauga model that has done that, to see that every service that we provide, that we build health prevention. Because that's the only way, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to save our health plan, is prevention. The other important thing is this, and it's for all you women today, that the only hope of eliminating poverty around the world and upgrading the quality of life of all the developing countries is empowering women to do it. The only way. Empowering women to do it. Teaching them how to do it, going out into the rural areas of these developing countries and teaching them, getting the women together in small groups and teaching them how they can improve the quality of life, how they can bring up their families in some protective. I was in Tanzania just a short while ago with the World Health. And when you hear of women that are dying on the side of the road with childbirth, bleeding to death, and when you think of the HIV/AIDS that is overcoming Africa in such that millions of people are dying every year, and I'm so pleased you'll be hearing about it. And at my church in Streetsville, with the help of Harold Percy and David Toyson, head of World Vision, that we are starting Hazel's Hope Initiative to raise funds to help the people of Tanzania to try to deal with this horrible disease. And folks, we don't want major contributions. I've insisted, not going out to the corporations and asking for money. I want each and every individual to give up something as a small donation, a loonie or a toonie, to this cause. It's to be, I want people to become aware of the need and be conscious of the need. You know, so often it's easy to give money. Well, we gotta know, I want children to empty their piggy banks for it, to do something right at the grassroots, and not a big fundraising of big events, etc., so that each and every individual will do something about it. So my experience with World Health, now on the advisory board, has been a wonderful experience for me. And I can assure you, it is so great. We've had a number of conferences on women and health. And the answer, as I say, to poverty and a higher quality of life in these developing countries is to empower women. Well, now I come to my years as the derailment in 1979. I was elected mayor in 1978, and we had our derailment in 79. What an experience to evacuate some 230,000 people from our municipality. And I recall so well, and I'm giving you some of these examples to say to you women, you gotta have power. You gotta have confidence in yourself. You gotta demonstrate you can do it. I remember Roy McMurtry came out, and he thought he was going to take over the management of the derailment. And he got a message that the mayor is in charge. Yes, I didn't sleep. I didn't get to bed for 3 nights. Because you know, when your adrenaline gets running, it sure runs. And we managed a derailment, an evacuation, the largest in North America, and did it as a team approach. Fire, police, social services, it was everybody. Everybody was involved in making what I call the Mississauga miracle, because no person lost their life. What an experience. It just shows that when the chips are down and you're given a challenge, that you must grab it with strength and confidence and join with others, a team approach. That's what I've tried to do as mayor of Mississauga, working with my council. And I got to tell you, I'm blessed that 6 out of 10 are women on the city council. What an accomplishment. Every time somebody either retires or leaves office, a woman comes on board. Someday it'll be 10 out of 10. Nothing wrong with men, by the way. I have loved every job I've done. I've enjoyed it. Working with people, and yes, and listening to people. You know, I'm a high school graduate, not a university graduate, but I sure have learned a lot over the years. I remember as office manager of this large corporation, doing all these projects. We built Petrofina, Montreal, Pat Mullen, and I hate to admit, we built the Lakeview Generating Station. I didn't admit that, which I hope will close in 2006 or 7. And I can assure you that you got to enjoy what you do, and to see you got to have a vision of what your role is in doing what has to be done. Not to take it over and run it, no, but to work with others in performing your responsibility. That is the sign, in my opinion, of a leader, is working with others, not for others or others working for you, but working with, that makes any project you undertake a success. So now we're back to the city of Mississauga. I remember the morning after the election, driving up Britannia Road and thinking, my gosh, I'm the mayor of this large city. What do I do? It was, I remember that well. Driving up Britannia Road, instead of going along Credit View that I do now, I went all the way up Britannia Road and down Hurontario Street. Don't ask me why, but I did. And I remember that, thinking, my, what a challenge. What a challenge. And I said, well, let's go at it. And so, after 25 years, it's been a marvelous experience. Think of the wonderful people I've met over the 25 years, not only in Mississauga, but in my tenure as president of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I ran for president the year I was elected mayor, which was a double job, quite honestly. But to think of all the friends I've made and all the wonderful people I've met and all the wonderful suggestions and advice they have given me. You see, when a person thinks they know it all, that's the first sign of defeat. It's when you cash in on the benefits that you can gain from listening to people and talking to people, asking them questions. I had no major experience to run a large corporation, but I sure called on a lot of people to get the advice and the help that I needed to do the job. And so that is what success is all about. Working with people, listening to people, debating with people, discussing with people around you. With your family, yes. With your friends, but you got to watch your friends, because they're only going to be kind to you. You got to listen to your enemies as well. Think about it. Those that are prepared to criticize you, those you have to listen to too. It's not a one-way street in regard to being happy in your job. Yes, I get up at 5:30 in the morning. I read 2 newspapers. Not going to tell you which ones, because the other ones be jealous. I only have time to read 2. And yes, I read the Mississauga News when it comes in on Wednesday, Friday, and I think Sunday. Someday, I hope the Mississauga News will be a daily newspaper in the great city of Mississauga. 6th largest city in Canada needs a daily newspaper. But I know they're only going to do it because I'm very much a private enterprise when they can make money at it, because they're not in the business for their health. Nobody is. And then I start to look at what my chores are for the day. And I can assure you, I just love to get going. I never think, oh, shucks, do I have to go to the office today? Or shucks, do I have to go to a school today? By the way, I just love going to schools. And the kindergarten are beautiful. I got to tell you. I'll say to them, how old do you think I am? Well, I'll tell you. That's a challenging question to ask kindergarten. Goes anywhere. And a teacher one day said to me, Madam Mayor, they look at you as their grandmother, and therefore it goes anywhere from 60 to 70 to 80 to 90. I'm telling you, it's really a treat to hear them. And then I enjoy going to the other grades as well. This week I spoke to some 600 to 700 high school students at the Marriott Hotel in Toronto on my term as mayor of the city of Mississauga, and encouraging young people to participate in public office. Sure, they can graduate from high school and take a job because they got to start earning money, or go to university and get a job. But I encourage young people sometime in their life to offer themselves for public service. And I have to say to you today, as I read the newspapers and I listen to TV and listen to radio, I'll tell you, it's time that we really encouraged dedicated people with integrity to get into government in a major way. I met with the Prime Minister on Friday for the 2 hours an hour on behalf of the municipalities of Canada, asking them for revenue sharing. And he said to me, Hazel, we don't have any money. I said, if you managed it better in Ottawa, you would. And so I enjoy my work. I enjoy going to, yeah, I sure do. I get in a lot of trouble, but that's okay. When I left, you know what he said? Will you give me a hug and a kiss? I said, I will if the money flows. He's a good friend. Anyway, so I enjoy what I do. And you got to, you know, I say to young people, if you're not happy in the job that you undertake, get out of it and get into something that you're happy. No matter how you try to cover up your state of mind, it will show and it will result in you not doing or giving your best to the job. Because I believe strongly if you give the best to whatever you do, the best will come back to you. And that is a message I give to high school students and university students as well. Give the best to whatever you do, even in school, and the best will come back to you. I believe very strongly in that. Secondly, I believe in faith. And I think my faith has been of great advantage to me. And I really am not just talking about the Christian faith. I think any faith, if you really take it seriously, and all faiths have goodness in it. I've studied most of them in some detail. I go to the Sikh temples. I go to the Buddha temples. I go to the mosques. I go to the Jewish synagogue. I was so delighted that the Jewish synagogue should take up to celebrate my 25th years as mayor. And I can assure you there's goodness in all faiths, but I think we have to have faith. Faith in God. And faith in yourself, confidence in yourself. Work hard to do your homework, and yet, and contribute. You know, there's a saying that you make a living by what you get. Isn't that true? But you make a life by what you give. And what you give is not always money, it's your time and talents on behalf of others. That's what matters in life. I often say we pass this way once, and we either make a mark on society or we go and nobody knows we existed. By the way, the next time I come back, I'm coming back as a lawyer. I have more trouble with lawyers than anything. I don't know how many lawyers there are in the crowd, but another motto I have, work like you will never die, and love like you, and live like you may die at any time. Think about it. Work like you will never die, and live like you could die at any moment. You know, there's a lot of philosophies in life, and I clip them all. My mother was a great collector of articles, etc. And after she passed away, I collected a lot of them. First of all, my mother taught me one thing. Never tell a lie, then you never have to remember. A great philosophy. Now, there are little white lies that you tell. It's true. I mean the real big ones. The real big lies. I thought maybe that at this point, before, they told me I spoke for an hour. I've never spoke for an hour. How long is it now? Pardon? 45 minutes. Oh gosh, I better get going. I got a few things here I've got to talk and discuss with you. Here are a few philosophies that help me. First of all, in the morning, when I wake up, there's a prayer I have which, if I can read it. I don't remember it. I haven't memorized it. But dear God, so far today I've done all right. I haven't gossiped. I haven't lost my temper. I haven't been grumpy, nasty, or selfish. And I'm really proud of it. But in a few minutes, God, I'm going to get out of bed. And from then on, I sure need your help. And that's a prayer for every mayor and every politician, I can assure you. But here's a prayer that I do repeat each morning, and it could be in any religion. It's nothing to. Oh God, give me the strength to live another day. Let me not turn coward before the difficulties or prove recreant to its duties. Let me not lose faith in other people. Keep me sweet and sound of heart, in spite of ingratitude, treachery, or meanness. Preserve me from minding little stings or giving them. Help me to keep my heart clean and to live so honestly and fearlessly that no outward failure can dishearten me or take away the joy of conscious integrity. Open wide the eyes of my soul that I may see good in all things. Grant me this day some new vision of thy truth. Inspire me with the spirit of joy and gladness, and make me the cup of strength to suffering souls. In the name of the strong deliverer, our only Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That prayer can be used by any religion. It just says to you, prepare for today. Be glad, be joyous. Look forward to meeting people, to working with people. Look forward to the challenges you're going to face. Be strong, be confident, and demonstrate it to other people. I think you can be of great help to people if they see confidence in you, confidence in yourself. And so, as mayor of this great city of Mississauga, I'll tell you, I've enjoyed every minute of it, in spite of some of the challenges, in spite of the other levels of government that are a real problem, in spite of the complaints I get, about so many times. And as I say to people that complain about maybe, as the article in the paper just recently said, that maybe the mayor earns more money than the premier. Well, I'll tell you, I've stayed in local government because it is closer to the people. It is where you meet with the people and you work with them. That is what's wonderful about local government. I was asked to run as the leader of the Liberal Party when David Peterson, Stephen Lewis, that I hope to have in Mississauga shortly to talk about HIV/AIDS in Africa, asked me to run for the NDP party. Bill Davis asked me, not before I challenged him on regional government, but before that, that I would run for the Conservatives. And just to give you my politics so you know it, I'm basically conservative with a liberal point of view, great social conscience, and looking for a lot of reform in government. It is so meaningful, local government. You're meeting the people when you go shopping, you're meeting them at church on Sunday, you meet them at all the social events. And if you really love people, then local government is the place to be. And so I've enjoyed my 25 years as mayor of this city, 30 years on council. And I'm looking forward to the day, and I have to tell you, I wear this pin very proudly, that Mississauga will be independent of the region of Peel. We have a huge success story. That's my challenge. I asked the citizens to get involved. They told us to go for it, and we are going for it in a big way. The independence of the city. And I ask you all to support us in this. Not that the region of Peel has not been a success. We have David Schwartz here today in my opinion, a very top-notch social service commissioner. And David and I have worked together in trying to convince the federal government and, of course, the provincial government to help us more in this region appeal with the needs of the region appeal. You see, one thing I have learned in politics, which is not nice to know, and that if you do a good job, you are not bonused. If you do a poor job, you're bailed out. And that is unfortunate. In the private sector, if you do a good job, you're bonused, right, Les? You're bonused for it. In the public sector, you're shafted. Sorry to tell you. But that doesn't discourage me, I can tell you. We're going to win, in my opinion, local government in this great country of Canada. It's where the action is, it's where the need is, where the economic success of this country is based on the economic success of the municipalities, and not what happens at Queen's Park or in the House of Commons, and thank goodness it isn't. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that it's been a wonderful experience. I love people. I love to be. I get up in the morning, I'm anxious and excited to go. And I look at some of the agendas and I sort of look at them and say, oh my gosh. But you know, you've got to be happy with what you do. You got to love what you do. You have to love people, even with all the problems that you face. And you got to be strong. I don't, as Katie Mahoney, if she's here today, knows, as I told somebody the other night that said, you know, you don't involve the public as much as you should in decision making. I told the group sitting around the table, if we allowed the public to plan the city of Mississauga, it would be a mess. Think about it. You see, you listen to the public, you analyze, you assess, you get professional advice from your staff, you don't ignore the public, and then you make a decision. And if you do your homework, 9 times out of 10, you'll make the right decision. If you'll take the time and spend the time in getting the best advice, discussing it with your colleagues, discussing it with other people, and getting, as I say, the profession, you can make the right decision. And so that's why I've enjoyed my 25 years. And by the way, I just want to say, I'm going to continue to offer myself to the people of Mississauga as long as my health holds out. I want to assure you. I don't want to discourage anybody else from running at all. I'm just saying I will offer myself, and it'll be up to the public. I want to end with a poem that my husband discovered. You know, I got to tell you, my success, my husband had a lot to do with it. He was behind me all the way, always one step behind, but he was there. Success is in the way you walk the paths of life each day. It's in the little things you do and in the things you say. Success is not getting rich or rising high to fame. It's not alone in winning goals, which all men and women hope to claim. Success is being big of heart and clean and broad, success and broad of mind. It's being faithful to your friends and to the stranger kind. It's in the children whom you love and all they learn from you. Success depends on character in everything you do. Thank you.
After more than 25 years in office, Hazel McCallion still runs the city with strict attention to detail and a keen eye on the bottom line. As long as most people can remember, Hazel has managed the city of Mississauga like a business. And after all these years at the helm of the 6th largest city in Canada, Hazel has never lost touch with the people who put her there, the people who continue to vote for her. Whether welcoming celebrities, world leaders, or new companies to Mississauga, helping raise money for local charities, or taking part in community events, Hazel's dedication is unwavering. Hazel's intelligent, uncompromising work ethic, her boundless energy, and her tough-as-nails approach to protecting her city and people have made her Mississauga's sweetheart.